Hello, everyone, and I hope this finds you all safe, fit, and well. And today we're going to be talking about identifying your stresses. Now, um, I appreciate last week was quite heavy purpose, meaning, and identity, and I hope your heads weren't spinning around that much with it. I will be breaking those videos down to do a short one on purpose, a separate one on meaning, and a separate one on identity. So they'll be coming out a bit later. Keep an eye out for them, okay? In the meantime, looking at stresses then, what are stresses? Well, basically, it can be anything that's from very small things that stress us out, such as your partner snoring. It could be things like the washing machine's broken down, it could be things like the car's broken down, and then obviously the levels increase and the size of the stresses can increase to include things like uncertainties over the future, finances, how you're going to pay the mortgage, how you're going to meet the rent, whether you're going to have a job or not with everything that's going on. So there's no upper limit, and also there's no lower limit. It could be as small as the thing. The point is, if it's something which is bugging you, which is upsetting you, which is just preventing you from really being productive or feeling really happy or being the best version of you, basically, any of those things, they can be stresses. If they're impacting on you, on your emotions, if they're feeding you negative thoughts, if they're impacting on relationships and money and your job, then these are your stressors. Now, this can seem quite scary, identifying what your stresses are. Let's face it, you are purposely seeking to find those things that you find upsetting and which maybe you don't really want to be thinking about them, which absolutely can seem quite, why the hell would I want to do that? I'd rather just put it at the back of mind and just get on with things. Yes, that is one way of looking at it, and I can totally relate to the people who feel that way. Hell, I even feel that way even now. So absolutely, I get that. But as hopefully you've already identified through the series of videos that you've watched, we really need to identify the negative stuff. If we really want to progress, if we really want to be the best version of ourselves, if we really want to find a way to deal with things and to be more productive, the best version of who we are, and all the stuff that we're talking about, guess what? That doesn't happen by simply looking at the happy stuff. Unfortunately, you need to go down the path which is also looking at all the crap. There's no shortcut. There's no two ways of getting around this. So what I would suggest that you do, because there's an exercise that goes with this, and I'll talk you through this a bit later, is really only try this when you are feeling okay. When maybe you know that someone else is around that you can speak to if need be. Or just that you're feeling really happy and you're feeling confident and you can manage things, and so you feel strong enough to be able to take this on. That's really when you want to be thinking about this. You don't want to be doing this, attempting this, when you are feeling quite down, or you're struggling with things. You're not really in the right place. So please bear that in mind. Now, we have a PDF exercise. We do this, and we have workbooks and stuff. Obviously, you haven't got that, but very simply, all you need to do is draw a box or a circle. Okay, and this is basically your stress container. Okay, we all have stress containers inside of us. And depending how big the stress containers are, and that is individual. So some of us, it relates to our resilience. So some of us who are really resilient, typically you'll have a big stress container. Okay, so all these stresses fill up your container, and it holds them quite well. If you took the same amount of stresses and you put them into try to put them into a container from an individual who isn't as resilient, okay, they're not all going to fit, so they're going to start overflowing. Now, the overflowing stimulates emotional snapping, okay, and we don't want that. That's not good. That's when, like, you are snapping at people, or you for no reason. Someone just says hello, or some kind of sarcastic, jokey kind of comment, and you take it to heart and you just have a go at them. No reason for it. And that's basically emotional snapping, okay? You can increase the how resilient you are, so you can increase the size of your containers, and we do that by going through these kind of exercises, okay? Because as we've already spoken about with strengths and weaknesses, once you identified the negative elements, or you've identified what is impeding you, then you can start doing things about it. Yeah, but we need to identify the bad stuff first before we then can make a plan on how we're going to approach it, how we're going to manage it, and how we're going to move forward from here. So draw your circle or your box, whatever, draw a shape on an A4 piece of paper. Yeah, and then what I want you to do is to start listing down all those stressors, all these things which are frustrating you right now, or really impacting on you, or even possibly really getting you down. What things have you got in your life right now which is really building up and taking over? Okay. Once you've got them listed down, then what I want you to do is then take each one in turn, all right, and then ask yourself the following questions for each one. So let's say that you just take the fact that your washing machine is broken, okay, for example. First question is, what are the facts surrounding this, okay? And the reason why for this question is basically what you're looking at is what are the facts around it. If the washing machine is just not working and it's plugged in, bear that in mind, then you need to be kind of thinking, okay, so the washing machine is broken. How do we know that? We know that because the light's on, but it won't do anything. Okay. However, if it's something else that's more within your mind, then you've got to think, what are the facts? For example, you sent someone a message on WhatsApp or Messenger, and you've seen that they've got the message, but they haven't responded. Now, that's a very typical one where you think, okay, they haven't responded, they're busy. However, 6-7 hours later, or even the next day, they still haven't responded, and you start getting a bit twitchy, a bit, oh, why haven't they responded to me? They've read it. Why haven't they responded? A few days later, they still haven't responded. Now you're getting a bit narky, or even you've sent another message, they've seen it, and they still haven't responded to you. People, sometimes individuals in those kind of situations start to catastrophize. It's called catastrophizing. And that's where basically you are building something up into something that it's totally much bigger than what it is. So, for example, the message scenario could be that you're saying they don't like me anymore. Why aren't they talking to me? What have I done wrong? Have I said something? Our friendship's falling apart. They must not like me anymore. They're talking about me behind my back. And it's like ballooning into this much bigger thing. When actually, it could be the fact that they just haven't had the time to get back to you yet. Okay? So we've got to be aware of our mind catastrophizing things. So we need to look at the facts. Okay? So are they not speaking to us? Have they fallen out with us? Are they talking about us behind our backs? Well, there's no facts to support that. Okay, like with the washing machine, the facts say yes, the washing machine's broken. That's a fact. Have we lost a friendship and they're talking about behind the back? There's no facts there to support that. There's no evidence around that. Okay, so it's our mind. So then we need to actually try and take a step back and go, okay, take a breath here. There might be something else going on at their end, which is why they haven't responded to us as yet. Okay, so that's the first one. What evidence or facts have you got to support this stressor? All right. The next two questions are based on things that you can and cannot change. All right. So the first question would be, what can you do to change this situation? Now, if it's something we can't do anything about, all right, then it's beyond our control. We can't change that ourselves. So what we've got to do is to be able to change our mindset on it. All right. If it's something that we can change, so let's look at the washing machine. Is it something that we have control of and we can do something about? Yes, we can. Obviously, we can arrange to get it fixed. How do we go about that? And then you break that down. Okay, so I need to make sure I've got some money to pay for it. I need to call out, make the time to call someone out to come and have a look at it, etc., etc. Yeah, so you make a plan and then you start putting the plan into place. If it's something that you have no control over, which would be the next question, yeah. Is it something that you have that you don't have any control over? Yeah, I don't have any control over it. So in which case you then need to be looking at your mindset and going, okay, so I'm getting so upset over this, I can't do anything about it. Let's say COVID. Oh, we can't do anything about COVID per se. Okay, so what we then need to do is we need to accept that we can't do anything about it. It's beyond our control. And for people who like to be in control, typically they're going to be struggling with these kind of situations because that it's totally beyond their control, and that is something they struggle with if you're that kind of person. So we need to accept that we can't do anything to change it. The situation is what the situation is. So what do we need to do with ourselves in mind to be able to prevent this from impacting us so much, or at least reduce the amount it is impacting on us? So it could be that you look at coping strategies. It could be that you accept that the situation is what it is, and you find a way to accept that you can't change the past, you can't predict the future, so I'm going to live in the now, and I'm not going to allow this situation to impact me as much as what it has been. Okay, so they're the kinds of things that you need to look at putting into place. All right. Next question is, who can I talk to about this? So we bit later on we'll be talking about making lists for people that we trust, that we can turn to, and that we can go to for guidance or just to be able to talk, and just to be able to as a release, just to be able to speak about things. So who can you turn to for support, just to be able to speak to them? You don't want someone who's going to try and fix you, or who's not even going to bother with you or anything like that. You want someone that you can trust. You want someone who's reliable. You want someone who is just going to kind of sit there and listen to you talk, and not take over the conversation and things like that. So who can you turn to that will be there for you and will listen to what you've got going on, and maybe they might be able to help if you want it on making a plan on how to get that washing machine fixed, or maybe they might have some thoughts on coping strategies that they've used that you haven't thought of, and so it could be worth you giving that a try. Okay. What I'll do is I will write these questions down within the post. Okay, so when you're watching this, go to the post that you got it from, or the YouTube channel. It will be in the descriptor, and I'll write the specific questions down. All right, because I know some people learn differently, and you might be watching this going, "I don't get it. What you're saying." But if they read it, it will make so much more sense to them. So I'll put it down within the post on Facebook, on our Facebook page, Talk Mental Health, and also on our YouTube channel, Talk Mental Health. I'll make sure that I put all the questions down there for you, so you can just go to that and you can read it and it'll make more sense. That aside, look forward to next week, where we go from self-awareness, which we've covered. We go into module 2, which is looking at self-care. Okay, so great. Obviously, I planned it very well, because now on the lead up to Christmas, with us talking about self-care, and we're going to be looking at coping strategies, tools, techniques, things that you can do, bits and pieces, to be able to get you through up to Christmas and into 2021. Okay, so look forward to that one next week. Until then, take care of those around you, but please, more importantly, take care of yourselves. See ya.
Every day, we experience the various stresses of life, otherwise known as stressors, and they begin to fill a container that is inside each and every one of us. Depending on how big your container is, depends how quickly the container fills up. Problems occur when the container is full and it begins to overflow, as this symbolizes emotional snapping, or in other words, that time we have all experienced when we, or someone we know, has an over-emotional response to something for no known logical reason. To prevent this from happening, we require a tap, or even several taps, that allow us to drain these unhealthy stresses from our containers. This is otherwise known as helpful and healthy coping strategies, such as exercise, guided meditation, and music, that helps us to alleviate negative impacts from the stresses and ensures that we can manage the stresses of everyday life. There are also unhealthy and unhelpful coping strategies, such as smoking, eating unhealthfully, drugs and alcohol, which whilst they may help in the short term, long term they will exaggerate problems and often lead to an increase in negative symptoms. The stress container can also be related to someone's personal resilience, which is where some people can become extremely overworked at everyday life very quickly, whilst others can remain almost horizontal, rarely becoming overly concerned or stressed at the most serious of situations. We as individuals can train ourselves to become more resilient, and as such increase the size of our stress containers. Until this happens, 1. Identify what your stresses are, regardless of size. 2. Identify what specific coping strategies work for you. 3. Learn to accept the things you cannot change, and identify what needs to be done about the things you can. 4. Ask for help. We all need the support of others from time to time. The key thing to remember is talking to someone about how we are feeling, not being embarrassed to talk about our problems, stresses, and our mental health generally. Is a courageous first step forward, and one towards gaining